All right, and here we are back again. This is Simmon reporting to you live from my home office slash guest room slash storage room slash room where the dog goes to hide from my toddler. This is the match with Toren and Blaine. Toren is also known as Donald Trump on the Discord server. I don't think it's the real one, just a random guess. But so here we go with Toren. They're going for a very different opening here. We didn't see corners, no adjacent corners, no opposite corners. Was placed in F5, which is very interesting. Blaine is going for a pretty traditional approach, going for that straight line. Very traditional in 5x5s to do sort of an edge crawl. This isn't quite an edge crawl, but now we're seeing them take the center. No capstones yet. We're already in turn 6 and no capstones. So this is a little unusual. I think from Blaine here, we need to see something defensive, probably something in D5 or in E4. Oh, but he went for offensive instead. All right, we'll see how this plays out. All right. Okay, yeah, and now Blaine can go ahead and just play something more offensive, maybe play here at A3 or play at B6. He's going for the A3 route. That's our first tack threat of the game. Now, the obvious choice is to capture over here onto B3, because placing maybe even a wall here wouldn't do much, because placing a capstone right here would basically negate that. So yeah, eventually he is going to have to capture here. So if we see Blaine place a capstone here to block this, to basically continue the threat, this wall wouldn't be able to do anything. So that's Blaine's best move, which will follow up by a guaranteed C3 to the left. Oh no, he's going for the capstone block. It's, I mean, not a great move because of that. C3 is going to have to come over anyway. And also because now the capstone is basically out of play. He's got nothing to work with here. So C3 comes over to B3, and then I'm going to guess that Blaine plays. Okay, he's this is this is very unorthodox because now he's gonna play at A6. Oh no, he's not. Okay. I mean, A6 would have been another tack threat that would have forced that C3 move. So if he plays at A6, oh, he's playing at A5. That's the wrong move. Maybe he doesn't want to force the C3 left. What is he doing? All right, this is different. It might be suboptimal. Maybe I'm not seeing something here. More walls from white. All right. Well, now white just needs to play at f6 because it's not, and now he's got attack threat. White has attack threat now. Black does not. Um, I guess you can move d5 over to e5, which would be attack threat, and it would cut off this threat here, going from f6 down to c1. That's probably the go-to move at this point, moving that over. But don't know what the thought process was behind that move, but we see the recapture here would win the recapture wars, and this basically cuts off anything that black is going to do here now, because this can jump over or jump up, and basically really the main thing is jumping over and cutting off this vertical threat that black has been working for this whole game. And that's just going to get recaptured. And now he can go up or over to make another attack threat. So he's probably going to go over now since he's got this wall here that's going to recapture some of those captives. And so spreading it out for not spreading out, going for a different approach here. All right, I don't know how to call this game. I'm clearly not guessing the moves that they're making. In the other games, I feel like I've done pretty well in guessing what the next move is going to be, but this one is boggling me a little bit. It's playing a little unorthodox. Wall comes out, and that's obviously to capture this stack, to free some of those prisoners, liberate those, and go for more aggressive play. Now we've got attack threat going right down in between these two walls. This wall moving up won't stop that. He'll have to place here, or he'll have to do a capture up top. And he's going for the capture up top. Now, I'm assuming we're going to see a placement here at F4 to continue this vertical threat. But he didn't do it. Okay. All right. I wonder why he went with that option. Maybe he thought that there was attack threat here. Maybe he thought this was still connected when it no longer is. Black recaptured this stack with the wall after that move, and now he can go ahead and make some aggressive moves, aggressive plays here, probably by throwing black, black, and then wall. That way it'll give him a attack threat going here, placing or capturing over, which would be a good move. Again, not quite tack threat, would be the next move. But yep, there's the tack threat going across, capturing over, right there onto F5. Wall comes down to stop that. No tack threat now. Now, what black should do here, what I'm seeing is placing here, because then he can continue that vertical threat and then basically surprise with it later. White now is giving a little bit more aggression, continuing down this edge, going for that wall. He can continue it with F2, or he can even continue it over here with E3. Went for a C4 instead. Oh, C4 for black, yeah. No threat here. Not really at risk of anything there. Okay, so we get the E3 move, and that's going to put the tack threat. Okay, and so that tack threat goes away now because the wall comes over and stops it. Again, I'm thinking that this move right here, placing here at A4 for black, is going to be absolutely necessary. I'm not sure what that was trying to do, though. Okay, so now we see D6 up here, and for white, all he needs to do is toss over this wall and leave a white behind, and then he's got attack threat with D2 here. Okay, D2 is played, and so now he does have that attack threat. Blaine saw it coming, threw that wall over, stop that threat from happening. And White's capstone this whole game has basically just been trapped up here because he used that to block that initial vertical threat, which, as you can see, both capstones are basically blocked, but Black's is in a much better position because it has some uses. It can be more aggressive, and it can do some things and further its position. We did see White continuing to move forward with this threat, sort of building in this direction. He'd need to place something here up on E6, but we saw the B3 go here a couple moves ago, and that was great for this because it solidifies this vertical threat. Yep, and there we get a vertical threat here that can only be stopped by capturing this or throwing the capstone down, which would be my preference, because the capstone at this point needs to escape. It needs to get out of that spot. Okay, that was a good play from Toren. And Toren is very new to this community. Only started playing TAC maybe a couple weeks ago, I'd say. Uh, I was one of the first people who got to play him, and he doesn't do too poorly at all, especially for how new he is at the game. He has been practicing quite a bit. I'm not sure how much Blaine has played lately, so that could be a factor in this. All right, well, we see some movements here. Blaine is basically setting up to capture over onto E5, and that'll give him some freedom of movement with his capstone, give him a couple extra prisoners that he can liberate, and also move down, cover up some of those white flats, and give him a bigger flat advantage. Also, give him attack threat with this wall moving off after he's crushed that. And so Toren is trying to figure out what he needs to do to preempt that. There it is. That horizontal threat has now been cut off by this wall. What he needed to do, hard to say here. This capstone did come over and crush, which is something that he needed to do. Okay, I like the capstone movement over here. Um, we will see next turn White probably placing down here on E2, and that'll give him attack threat. That'll be hard to stop. Um, Not necessarily hard to stop, but it'll turn the momentum around into White's favor. Right now, Black probably needs to move this capstone stack. I'm guessing down here, maybe make some plays with a vertical threat with this, or he could just straight up place for this vertical threat because he's got attack on the next turn. He could place here at B6, he could place it A4, he could place it B4, and he'd have that. Not sure what F2 was supposed to do. We do see this, the E1 play, which is the attack threat from White. Black can do a number of things here to get out of that. He can even just capture up to D6, and that would... Okay, and he does throw the capstone down, which is probably the good move here. He needed to get that, but it does make his capstone less effective than it was before. There is no threat from either player at this point. It's hard to say what's going to happen next. Blaine's probably forgotten all about this vertical threat, also because these walls are really just going to tear apart anything that he wants to do with it. Any plays he makes could just give those walls a little legs, give it an excuse to jump over and free this prisoner here. We're probably going to see F1 be played by White on the next turn. Black, I'm not sure what he can do in this position. Um, Running the capstone over and scooping up the flat here isn't a good play. Yeah, I'm not sure what is the good move here. It might just be playing for this vertical threat and seeing how things play out. It would keep the momentum on his side. Okay, not in the same spot for that vertical threat. Doesn't actually make the attack threat here. He does make sort of a move for it, but it is not the attack threat. Okay, and we see the F1 come over. And so what this does is it gives the opportunity for F1 to come up and cover up F2, which then creates this connection. And that connection can be used to make attack threat upwards by capturing up with this capstone onto E5. I definitely feel like there were some missed opportunities in the early game and in the mid game also, from both players that could have been done, but specifically from Blaine in the early game. I feel like he could have had a really dominant position, if not secured a Tinue fairly quickly. So we'll see how this plays out. Maybe I'll have time to jump back to the beginning of the game and see how things could have played out in a different way. All right, so we see the preemptive move, F2 going up to F3, so we can't make that connection anymore. We also see that, okay, that is also creating an opportunity here for a horizontal threat. He could move D5 down to D4, or he could move C4 over to D4, and that would create an opportunity to then capture over for the tack threat. Granted, it would probably just be scooped up by this capstone, but it's still an opportunity, and it would still give him a little bit more flexibility, maybe allow his capstone to move out of that position. However, White's capstone does have a lot of captives here. 1, 2, 3, 4 black captives with 1 white piece. So this whole stack, he can move this entire stack, but he can't move any more pieces than that because the carry limit is 6 on a 6x6 sideboard. Blaine taking his time. You can see the respective times here. Blaine has moved into the reserve time, and Toren is still playing on the increment, the 15-second increment on these games. As you can see, 10 minutes with a 15-second increment. So he has not taken much time at all on his moves. Wow, okay. Blaine went for that. That is interesting. I like that. Uh, the capstone can't come into play here. He's forcing either D4 to come down or F4 to come down or a wall to be played here. So there's a lot of opportunities to be played to stop this horizontal threat. It's just which one is Blaine planning for? Which one does he want to occur? Apparently, Toren missed the threat entirely and loses the game here, making Blaine the winner. That was very surprising. I did not see that one coming. Yeah, that was very different. Okay. All right, let's take a look back at these early moves to see if we can see if I was right. Maybe Blaine did miss an opportunity here. Okay, so he's got this position. White plays, black gets the capstone. White capstone comes out, black comes over. That's the good move right here. Now, he takes it there. Placing here at A6 is a move that would guarantee C3 to come over, because there's no other way to stop that besides C3 coming over. Now, that does break up this route a little bit, and it would eventually probably lead to, after C3 comes over, playing here on A4. Oh, they're into the next game. We'll leave the analysis for later. Again, we see placements not in the corner. It's very unusual. Huh. So that is very unusual. So Blaine decided he's going to play Blaine decided he's going to play over here for the first move, off center, off corner, and then Toren responds by, okay, I'll just place right here next to you. That way, wherever you go, I can stop that anchor. I mean, it's a good move. It's very unusual for someone to play outside of the corner, especially in competitive play. I mean, maybe it's a good move, Um, I don't feel like it's a great move for white to do it though. For black, maybe it might be helpful, but if white places black off center or off corner rather, then black can just place white right next to it to control where that anchor is, to basically make it so no, you don't have this pure momentum going on. I get a little say in this. Maybe that's thrown Blaine off. Maybe he had something else that's taking his attention. Maybe he's got a small child bothering him. I'm not quite sure, but he is losing time. Now, they didn't have an issue with time in the last game. Some of the other games that have been played today that I wasn't able to record or take a look at live, they did have issues with timing, and we saw some people lose to resignation by time. All right, so we see Toren coming out, going straight across, being very aggressive, early capstone coming out, white playing around it. It's good. It's a good build going up. Maybe we'll see a D1 here from black. Yeah, we will. Now, we'll probably want to see an E1 from white here. No, we're not going to see that. Okay. F1 then, surely. Okay. So now he can feel free to play here at F2, knowing that he's got some control here. If E1 comes over, then he can just throw a capstone down and have a great solid lead there. Black is behind. If he wants... Ooh, okay. That was unexpected. I was expecting something right here on D4 to basically continue on and be ahead in the momentum game. But instead, we've seen this capstone come up. It's pretty isolated. I mean, it can come down and capture here for attack threat, but if black moves that flat, then white's capstone is all alone. And that's probably what black wants to happen in the end, but it's early. He wants to be placing pieces as opposed to capturing. So he probably wants to place here at C2 or place here at B1. Okay, so he placed at C2, which is probably the better spot to place. Gives him more angles to jump in and interrupt this threat. White opted instead for placing at A3 instead of capturing down with the capstone. Capturing is potentially dangerous, but not so much with a capstone. And so this play might cost him when black comes over and captures here onto C3. Because then this capstone is completely isolated. That's not happening right now, apparently. Again, I'm being... my analysis isn't being super spot on because these guys are making moves that I am not expecting. Different thought processes. Okay, we see attack threat here. Maybe he's hoping that Blaine won't see it. Blaine did see it. He captured. We're probably going to see a flat come down here at A1. As A1 occurs, then we'll see B1 from white, most likely. Or, better yet, capstone come down to A3. Oh no, he's just going straight for that threat. Capstone coming down to A3 would have been better, in my opinion, because no matter what they do here, he could eventually throw that capstone down, maybe block it. It would also keep that capstone in the game. Right now, capstone's isolated. So Blaine has to be playing a white piece here on B1 if he wants to keep that sort of fixed, keep it in the game. Momentum is going to go here to black when black places at B1 because he can't make that attack threat right now. So, yeah, he's got to come over. Really isn't another option there. Because placing on this side isn't great. He's got a citadel here, which is a term that very few people actually use but it does exist. It's when you have four pieces that are all together in a square. That's really hard to combat. It's a very defensive position that works very great offensively as well. Okay, so we've got the piece surrounding here. He wins the capture war, but breaks up his threat here on the bottom. Now, he can force the capture war to not occur by coming down with a capstone. Capstone is now in play. He has attack threat, capturing over, taking this piece, and securing a prisoner that wouldn't be necessary if, it didn't win. But when this piece probably goes over to stop it, he can throw the capstone over and capture it and secure. Oh, he missed the attack threat. Blaine wins. There we go. Tack threat missed again. So that was 2 games for missed tack threats. This one happened way earlier in the game. Black just didn't see that capstone coming over and making that connection with the wall. So that perseverance from Blaine on continuing to just push and push and push this horizontal threat really paid off for him. Wasn't one that I expected to occur. Again, there were some moves there that I was questioning how well they would actually work. But they ended up functioning fine. I think the main key here was that Blaine was able to see these tack threats and was able to deliver on it, was able to avoid, whereas Toren missed this move right here. I think he was probably forgetting that this was a connection, or maybe he forgot that capstone was part of a wall or part of a road. A lot of times, that's a thing with newer players that happens all the time, especially in person when you're introducing someone to the game and they're pretty new to it. Capstone blindness. That is a huge, huge thing that happens. You sort of see past the capstone or don't see the capstone, that it can be part of that wall, part of that road. And so you only look at the flats and the capstone just kind of goes unnoticed. It's a real thing. I know it doesn't make much sense, but it happens. Anyway, that is it for this game, and I will hopefully come back to you again in round 2 for another few matches. Adios, folks.